In this interview, we hear from Kelly. She's 27 years old, living in Washington, D.C. She's an environmental attorney. She shares what her experience in law school was like and what her career is like. So let's get started. Hi, Kelly. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to hear about your career as a lawyer. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, hi, Bridget. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so right off the bat, can you tell me a little bit about your undergrad experience and maybe what led to you deciding to become a lawyer?
Sure, yeah. So I graduated from Binghamton University in 2015, and I double majored in history and environmental studies, concentrating in policy and law.
Whoa, it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was really exciting for me because Binghamton, the history program, has a lot of courses on environmental history. So I was able to really combine those two interests pretty effectively and, take history classes that were supporting some of the issues I was learning about in my environmental policy courses. So that was a really great basis for me to help decide to go to law school. I was deciding between a number of career paths while I was at Binghamton. I was looking at maybe getting a MPA or Master's of Public Administration or something similar. But when I was in classes and learning about how the law affected environmental policy, I had the opportunity to intern also. Binghamton has an internship program through the Harper Law Council where you can intern at a number of state agencies. And at the time, there was an internship available through the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to intern there, and that really introduced me to a lot of background knowledge about what it might mean to go to law school and become an attorney. So basically the combination of my coursework, my general interest in what I thought I might want to do, what I would want my career to look like, and the practical experience of interning really led me to, when I graduated, to make the decision to take the LSAT and choose law school.
Awesome. And then if you were interested in a specific environmental law route, did that kind of limit the schools that you were looking at for law school, like maybe location wise?
It was a combination, I would say. So when I was choosing between law schools, I mainly focused on New York City area and Washington, D.C. When I was making the decision, I definitely wanted a law school that had a lot of environmental courses. Ultimately, D.C. for me, wanting to go into environmental law made the most sense because I knew I wanted to intern a lot. In law school, you can intern for credit every semester.
Oh, cool.
So I really wanted to do that. And in DC, you have access to intern at so many different federal agencies. A lot of different law firms with environmental programs are located in DC. So there's a lot of people you can talk to and learn from about the field as you're kind of developing, what you want your career path to look like. So I would say for law school, like if you know what you want to end up doing, geography is important because you want to look at where you might want to work, where you might want to form a network. You want to look at what courses are available. It's not like you select a major and you pick a course that you want to follow in law school. You can take courses on literally anything, which is something that's really amazing. You can learn a lot about a lot of different topics, but you might want to pick a program that has courses and professors who work specifically on what you're interested in. George Washington was unique for me because since it is in DC, there's a lot of adjunct professors from various different environmental fields who teach at the school. And that was something I saw as a really great opportunity. So a lot of different considerations.
That's something interesting to me. I actually didn't know this until we spoke about this previously, that in law school, there's no specific track that you do to, like, say, go into environmental science or like prosecution or whatever the correct terminology is. It's mostly you get your JD and then you go into whatever realm you're interested in, right?
Yeah. That's something to me that's so interesting about law school. I mean, I went there for the purpose of going into environmental law, and the courses I took, internships I had just kind of confirmed that that's what I wanted to do. But you can basically attend and take a lot of different courses. And if you think maybe you want to do criminal law, but you learn more about like tax law, and you decide that that's what you want to do. You could take courses and intern and demonstrate an interest in that field and, transition really into whatever you'd like to do. That's what I think is really fascinating about law school, is that if you go and you don't know what field you want to go into, there's a lot of opportunities to learn and intern and kind of forge, what path you want, and you don't have to necessarily meet course requirements in a certain field. You can kind of take as you want.
Yeah, that's crazy. And awesome at the same time that you get this blanket education that, qualifies you to do all these different types of specialties. That's just really cool to me. So obviously there's a lot of, I don't want to say stereotypes, but maybe I do, stereotypes with each year of law school. Can you kind of share what your experience was like with those stereotypes?
Yeah. So I find each year is very different, and it's different for everyone depending on what field you want to go into. So the first year, 1L, basically like you just have to focus on studying. That's really your main goal. Every 1L takes the same set of courses. So you don't choose your courses that first year. It's like very basic structural courses that you need to know that are foundational. So like civil procedure, criminal law, property, constitutional law. And so basically your focus that first year is to kind of hunker down and study really hard. And it's a tough year because it's an intense work environment. Even if I worked really hard in college and 1L, it's still, even harder than that. But it's your introduction into the legal field. It's basically like learning a different language. You learn all the terms you need to know. You kind of learn the foundation of what it will look like once you start practicing. So it's tough. It's definitely earned its reputation.
Yeah.
So your second year, you have a lot more flexibility in your courses. So my second year, that's when I started interning. I interned at 2 different federal agencies, one in the fall, one in the spring. And a lot of students will choose to do that to kind of, you've been through 1L, you've taken the foundational courses, courses that are going to appear on the bar exam. Your second year, it's when you have a lot of choices. You can intern, you can choose to take a wide variety of courses to kind of see what interests you. You start participating in things like if you're on a skills board, so like people who are on the moot court board or who work on negotiations or mock trial, that's when you can start developing those skills outside of classes, participate in competitions. And something that I was heavily involved in was my law journal, the Journal of Energy and Environmental Law. And that's a publication that students help to edit and develop, that's read by, practitioners and students. Your second year, I think, is a lot about exploration, taking steps to build a network and meet different people, talk to different people, gather as much information as you can about what you want your career path to look like. So each year is very different. And then your third year, some people find a job that they're, going to have after they graduate in their second year. There's a big process called on-campus interviewing, or OCI. And a lot of students may find their job through there. Every summer you intern or law clerk for a firm, a government agency, a nonprofit. And through the OCI process, you will, be hired by a law firm to clerk for them your 2L summer. And then hopefully, that would be a firm that you work at after you graduate. For others, you keep searching throughout your second year and your third year for different opportunities that you might be interested in. So for me, in my third year, my focus was, finishing up taking classes that I really wanted to take. At that point in time, I was the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Energy and Environmental Law. So I was spending a lot of time working on that publication and also searching for a job, searching for, the purpose of law school is to find a career.
Just a little busy.
So that was a lot of my time was spent on, career development, like trying to talk to people, see what opportunities are out there. There's a big professional development component to law school. So obviously, like, you have to study hard at your courses. That's a huge part of law school is, learning, being dedicated to your classes. But another big piece is just learning as much as you can about the field that you want to go into and attending networking events and, reaching out to people for an informational interview. So that's a big part of your third year too.
Yeah, awesome. Can you speak a little bit to what your job search experience was like and how you found yourself at the firm you're currently with?
Mm-hmm. So I went through a number of different pathways. So I interviewed, some federal agencies have what's called like an honors program. So they will recruit students who recently graduated or did a clerkship at a court, and they'll recruit, people who just graduated, entry level positions.
Yeah.
So I looked at a number of those. I relied really heavily on my career services website at GW to find job postings, and I would apply to places through there. What also was helpful for me was having conversations with my professors about different career paths, ways to find an entry level position at places like small firms or medium firms. So ultimately, I was talking with one of my professors, and I learned about the firm I'm currently working for, Bergeson and Campbell PC, and I applied and started the interview process from there. And it's been really an amazing experience so far. I've been there for like a year and a half. I think your job search in your third year takes a lot of creativity and patience.
Yeah.
Trying to find an opportunity that will be really fulfilling and rewarding for you without, obviously there's the stress of you want to graduate and find something.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for undergraduate students who would like to go to law school, study for the LSAT, but maybe their degree they're working towards currently doesn't necessarily translate to like a law type situation?
That's something that I think is really an interesting point, because what I've found with law school is there's a benefit to having kind of a unique, non-traditional like law background. Like some people majored in like a legal studies type major, like political science, history, English, and that was their jumping point to decide they wanted to go into law. But there are a lot of opportunities for students who don't necessarily have that background, because there's such a diverse set of career paths you could take in law school. So there were students in my school who, were nurses or engineers, and they decided they wanted to go into law. And they're very successful because, you don't need necessarily that background in undergrad or major that's specific to the law to succeed and find something that you want to do.
Yeah.
So I would definitely encourage students who, majored in art or sciences or business to definitely not be dissuaded by the fact that a lot of your fellow students in 1L were, maybe majored in political science, because the background that you have in your coursework in undergrad or your experiences working after undergrad, will be really unique, and you'll carve out your own path in law school and through your internship.
Not for undergrads, but for maybe people who are changing their careers. Is there a stigma around, going to law school when you're 30, 40, or 50 versus right out of undergrad? Or is it you've had more life experience, so that's actually really highly looked upon?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to both. There are a lot of students who go to law school right out of undergrad, and there's a lot of students that might take a year or two, like what I did. I took a year off just to, take the LSAT, get my applications ready, and I wanted to work for a bit too before going to law school. And then there's a large number of students that worked maybe for 5-10 years, who are in their, whatever stage in their career that they are at, and they decide that they want to go to law school, or maybe it's been a goal of theirs for a long time. They make the choice to transition over. And I think there's benefits to both. I think, if you come out of undergrad, you kind of have that momentum of your study schedule. And when you have some work experience behind your belt, a lot of the professional development skills that you build upon in law school, you likely already have have those because you've worked for a period of time. I think that there definitely shouldn't be any hesitancy if you've worked for, like, let's say for 5 years in an unrelated field and you want to make the transition to the legal profession. Because whatever skills you've learned, whatever connections you've made, the background knowledge you have, and even just keeping a work-life balance in law school is hard. So I find that sometimes the students that worked for a period of time, they get acclimated to treating law school like a work day. You have the skill to establish a work-life balance in law school because of the professional experience you had working in whatever field you're in before applying to law school.
Awesome. Very cool. Reaching the end of our time here for discussion, can you share a little bit about how you see the field of law and being an attorney evolving over the next, several years?
Yeah. And I think it depends on what specific field you're in. And I think it could depend on, the consequences of the transition to remote work due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I think everybody's seen the I'm Not a Cat video on Zoom.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry.
the Zoom, that
Zoom fail.
I'm not a trial attorney, but I know that a lot of people I know from law school have gotten acclimated to doing hearings and depositions over Zoom. Specifically in the field of environmental law, there, I think, will be a lot of changes in the field regarding climate change issues and environmental justice issues. I know that with the Biden administration, there's a renewed emphasis on addressing climate change and environmental justice. So in each specific field of environmental law, whether it's, attorneys who deal closely with the Clean Water Act or who deal with environmental transactions relating to real estate, or like in my field, which is chemical products regulatory law, there's going to be specific shifts and emphasis on those issues, which can be very exciting.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for your time today. I definitely did not know a lot of things that you shared with me today about being a lawyer. I don't think that is the path for myself, but I know it is for people out there. So thank you so much for sharing your insight, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much.
Yeah.